What's good? Satoshi's mom here. I am here with ZAGABOND, the absolute fucking legend, somebody who I consider as one of the boldest creators in the space, someone who's lived through the space for since like what, 2020, 2021, even earlier potentially. And you've gone through a lot in the space, and somebody that I look to who has absolute wisdom of the game of building business in the world of crypto and art as well, NFTs. So I'm really stoked to have you on here today and to talk a bit more about you, ZAGABOND, and like who you are. So welcome to the pod, man. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here.
Hell yeah. So let's just start off by like talking about kind of the origins of ZAGABOND. Like, how did you get into this space, and like what intrigued you to become a part of this space and start building here?
Yeah, so I actually started working full-time in crypto since 2017. And I first heard about crypto in late 2016. Well, I heard about Bitcoin, way before. I think back in like, um, 2011, I first heard about Bitcoin when I was in college, but I didn't really, get into it, no mining or anything like that. 2016, though, is when my friend told me about Ethereum. And he said, look, everything you know about Bitcoin, Ethereum can take that to the next level. It's like this giant supercomputer. You can write programs on it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Didn't buy any ETH or anything until early 2017. I had a friend who joined Coinbase early on, and she was really smart. I went to college with her, and she told me, hey, just buy some ETH. I feel like it'd be a good investment, even if you don't know anything about the tech. I said, okay, she's smart. Let me do it. I think it was like $6 or $7 at the time. And then the next day it went up like 10, 20%. And so I was like, wait, if you bought a stock and it just went up 20%, like in crypto, we're like, yeah, whatever, right? Meme coins can go 10x in like a minute. But I was like, wait, should I sell? Like, this is crazy. And she's like, no, I think you should buy more. And so I did. And at that point, I'm like, okay, it's a pretty sizable part of my small portfolio now. Let me learn about what this tech actually is. And so I did that, and just became fascinated with the potential of different applications that can be built on top of it. And so my friend's husband actually was working on a startup at the time on Ethereum, and it was called 0x, and it's a decentralized exchange protocol. And we caught up over lunch. He explained the concept to me, and what really got me excited is that at that point, there had been pretty few significant centralized exchange hacks, right? Mt. Gox being a big one. And it was kind of ironic that like in a space that is all about decentralization, like we couldn't even hold crypto and transact crypto from our own personal wallet. We had to deposit into a centralized exchange. I'm like, wait, that's kind of no different than a bank in a sense, right? If the exchange goes under, you lose your assets. What's the point of even having a decentralized currency in the first place? And so that was the vision of 0x, is how do we create the crypto rails and infrastructure in which decentralized exchange can then be built on. And so I took that leap and joined 0x back in 2017 to lead operations. So that's kind of how I got started.
Word. So Project 0x, that's the same as 0x, right?
Yes, 0x. I believe the parent company now is called 0x Labs, and they work on 0x protocol as well as matcha.xyz, which is a DEX aggregator. So maybe you've used it before, but they aggregate different trades and give you the best pricing. It's even better pricing than Uniswap. So would suggest checking that out.
Yeah, I love matcha, actually. Matcha is my go-to usually to just like get the best price. So yeah, I've been using it for quite a while. That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
So like you basically heard about Ethereum, you bought some ETH, you're like, holy shit, my bags are pumping. This is wild. Like this is like, I didn't expect that.
Like the same as everyone's story when they enter crypto, I feel like.
Honestly, man, I mean, it's funny because like when I entered crypto, I literally bought ETH and Bitcoin and immediately was down like 20%. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, so then I sold it and I was like, all right, like, let's figure out what I'm doing here. But I had a small bag anyway, but like, that's funny. I think like the intro part of like getting involved in crypto, it's like a light bulb kind of goes off. And then you're like, all right, like, wait, there's something beautiful about what the potential is of this here. So like you basically were pilled on crypto and you started talking to your friend's husband, you got involved with Project OX. And then what led you to get involved with NFTs? Like, because when I saw Azuki, I was like, wow, like, you know, I guess we can jump to Azuki later because I know you got into NFTs with a couple other projects first,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. So this was 4 years after working on Zero X, right? Ran operations, did everything from recruiting to BD to HR to finding our new offices. We went through, I think, 3 offices by the time I left. And so in those 4 years, we scaled the team from just the founding team, which was just a group of 5 of us, to over 50 people. And so we were based in San Francisco. Most of the folks were remote. And this was during like the COVID, era when companies were like, should we go remote? And so we made that commitment. And I was pretty early into the, let's just go remote phase. And that was a great experience because I think through those 4 years, I learned the power of community. I learned the power of creating a new project in Web3 and then having like a global community of supporters, people from all different types of backgrounds that really like the tech. They might like, just the values that the project stands for. And so that part was really fascinating to me. The part where I struggled with is I'm not really a big numbers guy. And so working in DeFi, working decentralized exchange, it felt like I couldn't really use my creativity to the full extent. And so when it came time to creating new products and branding and things like that, that got me really excited. When it came time to thinking about on the smart contract side, right? How can we innovate there? That's where I just couldn't really get too deep into it. And so when NFTs came around in 2021 or late 2020 is when, actually funny story about when I first came across, NFTs was in 2017. There was a Ethereum hackathon in Waterloo. And now there's ETH global events, all over the place every year. I believe ETH Waterloo might have been the first one. And DeFi was a blossoming category of projects building on Ethereum at the time. And NFTs, they weren't really popular. And when we were there sponsoring the hackathon and talking to builders to build on Zero X, there was a team that came around and they passed around these Pokemon cards with these like cartoon kittens kind of taped on the back. And they're like, hey, we're, Axiom Zen, we're making CryptoKitties. These are kitties that you can own on the blockchain. And so here's a free one, scan the QR code and you can mint one for free. And my first reaction to it was, dude, I'm here to talk about DeFi and, serious stuff. Like, what is this like cat on the blockchain? Like, I don't really get it. Right. And so I actually was like, I heard them out, but then I just gave all the cards to my teammate at the time. He's like, yo, if you don't want it, I'll take it. And he went ahead and minted a bunch of like Gen Zero CryptoKitties that went on to, he sold them for tens of thousands. But that was my very first time learning about like, I don't even think they were ERC 721 at the time. Because that standard got standardized a bit later. But sort of ignored NFTs very early on. I bought some Gods Unchained cards and kind of learned about the tech. It was interesting. And I remember our thesis at Zero X at the time was because our protocol only supported ERC20 trading, but we were working on adding 721 support. So we were formulating what our thesis was around NFTs. And we thought that there would be orders of magnitudes more NFTs than there would be fungible tokens at some point in the future. Because just look at the collectibles market, the art market, right? Anything can really be tokenized. And that's the vision that we saw for the future. So we were very bullish on NFTs. Personally, though, because I was still thinking about DeFi mostly, I wasn't starting to think about starting my own project, what that could look like. But it wasn't until late 2020 that I found NBA Top Shot. And it was a project that used an IP that I loved, right? I loved the NBA. And this concept of just owning a moment that happened in the sport as a collectible. And they never used the word NFTs, even though they were NFTs on Flow, I believe, was a
Right.
blockchain. But they never really pitched it as NFTs. And so they were able to onboard a lot of people because the concept of the app was so dope. And it got me hooked. It got my friends hooked as well. And we would be ripping open packs, trying to collect the rare moments. And that kind of sparked something in me where I was like, hey, like, this is something that I could see myself building, right? Using NFTs, making a really cool experience for people. And so I kind of kept that in my back pocket. And then when early 2021 came around, Bored Apes minted, right? And a lot of NBA Top Shop folks were early on Bored Apes. And they got all that liquidity right from Top Shot, put it into Apes, and Apes started going up like crazy. And through Apes, what I found is like, wow, okay, so with a 10,000 PFP collection, you're able to actually curate and aggregate a group of like-minded people that really love this IP and brand. And back then, no one was really talking about brand. Even Bored Apes, they were just like, oh, we're just a club of apes. And but they weren't really thinking of themselves as like a decentralized brand or anything like that. And things just started happening organically, right? I think what was beautiful about what Yuga did was they gave commercial rights to ape holders, and that allowed them to start doing stuff, creating businesses on their own, and that was really inspirational for me as well. And so fast forward to now, about June of 2021, I said, okay, well, this concept of like provenance on the blockchain and also like IP ownership of this asset that you held, that's something that I felt like this space was still unclear about. And even owners of these NFTs do not really understand fully what it is that they own, because they own the token, but the art that's associated with the token, they may not actually own the commercial rights to. If you're an ape owner, you did have commercial rights. But if you're a punk owner at the time, you didn't actually own the commercial rights to it. And so at that point, punks had like a really high floor price, right? And the punk owners, you know, felt a little bit elitist. You know, they were kind of like, oh, all these other projects, we're the OGs, right? We know better than everyone else. And it was always my dream to actually own a punk one day. But I thought, why not start a project where I simply just flipped the punks on the y-axis and called them funks? And we created this whole story around, you know, we've only seen one side of CryptoPunks. We haven't seen the other side. And the whole concept of it was, you know, will punk owners be angry at this? Right? Because they're like, no, someone else has my art. But then through this, it was almost like performance art, because it made people really think like, wait, like, hey, we didn't take the token that you own from you, right? We're just making a statement here. You still own what you own. And then we're simply flipping it on the y-axis. And that was like the project in which my goal was to get my feet wet in the space, learn about how to build community. And I learned a lot in terms of how to build a community that is rallying around in this common vision, and just learned about, you know, token standards and, you know, everything like that. And so, yeah, that's kind of how, so I got inspired through Top Shot, Bored Apes, and then eventually kind of started my own first project with Phunks.
Yeah, man. I think honestly, I don't know if it was you that I was talking to back in the day, but I was DMing back and forth with the Phunks account, and they're like, yo, like, check these out. That was like when they were
That's
launching.
me. That was
Dude,
me.
no
So
fucking way. That's hilarious, man.
I remember
think
I
that's so funny.
DM'd, I think, thousands of people directly.
Yeah.
So I probably DM'd you first, right? Hey, check these out, you know, and that's the grind kind of mindset that you have to have when starting a new project is no one's going to come to you. You have to find every single person. And I felt like we had a lot to offer. Spent a lot of effort on the minting experience. They only minted for 0.01 ETH each. And I think we actually got a really, you know, dope group of early people into that community. And so, yeah, it's funny that, you know, we actually interacted, it was three years ago.
Yeah, man. Like I remember looking at the site too. I was like, damn, this is pretty impressive. And like very cool. Like definitely a huge learning experience just getting involved in kind of creating that performance art. Like what was that like for you when you launched and then that ended up selling out? Like how did that feel in that initial stage? Did it spark more inspiration for like, okay, like there's a lot of potential here in this space, or like did it take a long time to sell out? Like what was that process like, the initial stage?
Yeah, no, it took a while to sell out for sure. Most hype mints, right? They sell out right away, and you have to get whitelist for it and whatnot. But this was during a period of time where um, I think the hype project was definitely minting out. But for us, like we weren't a hype project by any means. I was DMing people, you know, like one on one.
Yeah.
And what's funny is the initial project was actually launched on a bonding curve. So that was the very first collection. And so the mint, I think, started stalling around maybe, I don't even think we reached 1,000 mints out of 10,000. I think we are at like 800 or something. It started stalling. It wasn't really minting as it didn't even hit the next tier on the bonding curve. And so we're like, okay, well, this is not working, right? So what can we do now? So what we did was we actually created a new contract where no bonding curve, just flat price, and we airdropped everyone that owned the V1 a new V2. So that's why if you look at the contract, it's CryptoFunks V2 because that's like the new contract.
Right, right.
And then once we did that, we revamped the website, right? And we had a character. And I think some, you know, like if anyone knows an earlier one, let me know. But I think Philip was the very first intern that a project used in this
Yeah.
space. And that character was, look, he was you know, a young kid interning for CryptoFunks. He was flipping every punk in Photoshop by himself, you know, by hand. And so what we did was we turned the V1 Funks into Philips. So they were all Philips face. And then for V2, we airdropped everyone their corresponding V1 Funk and then continued the mint from there. And even after that, I think we got some, you know, initial traction, but it didn't mint out until maybe like 2 3 weeks later. Every day almost felt like a grind, right? We would have these like reveal parties in Discord. People would stream their reveal animation. And I remember a dope moment was we were waiting for the first alien to be minted, right? And it wasn't until I think we were 3,000 funks in that this legend, his name was Cadveros, I still remember his name, came in and he minted the very first alien funk, and that was a awesome moment for everyone. I think we just kept riding that energy, right, until eventually it you know, just minted out. And I remember when it minted out, I was actually on a backpacking trip for the weekend. I think it was July 4th weekend. And and there's no cell service, right? So I remember the whole time I'm just like sitting there in my tent thinking like, man, I wonder how Funks is doing, you know, because that's like my baby. No cell service. And then when the trip was over, I remember we got down to the bottom of the mountain. First thing I did, check my phone. And then I checked the mint. It's like, holy shit, it actually minted out. And I remember thinking like, wait, like I never imagined that this project would ever mint out. And so I just drove home and started going like, all right, like what's next? You know, so it was a very exciting moment for me. And I think it showed me that if you have an idea and that you think it's dope and you really have conviction in it, because I really believed in the concept, right? But some people, when you told them, oh, you just flip a punk, they're kind of like, wait, so like, what's the point of that, right? But I really believed in the concept, and to see like, you know, 1,000 people come in and also think that it's cool enough to mint and be a part of this community, it really proved that I do have good ideas, and if I really commit to it and build it out and put my all into it, that's something cool can happen.
So when you are building a startup, like I'm assuming you have other startup experience as well, because you were like involved in the startup basically with Project OX super early on. do you typically reach out in the trenches, grinding, DMing, hitting people up, doing one-on-ones with people and just being like, yo, like, here's what I have. Like, what do you think of this? Or is that like something that you've done in the past and you don't really rely on as much now? Because obviously you're way more established now. Everybody knows who you are in this space. And I'm curious your take on that for people listening who have their own startups or they're trying to get the word out around their own projects.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the position that you're in. And for everyone, it's different, right? And everyone has different networks. Everyone has different access to people that can help them. I would say, though, that if you're a first-time founder, unless you get extremely lucky somehow, right? Or someone's willing to help you, or you make a post that goes viral, you're going to have a really hard time with distribution. And so that kind of grind mindset of being in the trenches, you know, going after your potential users or community members one by one and really pitching yourself and showing them why they should join, that I think is still necessary, even at this stage of the industry. It's the same thing for founders in Web2, right? Like a lot of first-time founders, even second-time, third-time founders, they have that track record, but their potential users for their new startup might not have anything to do with their old one. So then in a new market, they have to do the same thing, right? They have to start looking for potential customers, DMing them, listening to their feedback, and reiterating from there and continuing to build up that initial customer base. And so I really think that finding the initial, even just 10 people, because I remember with Phunks, like the first people that came into Discord, I was laser focused on like, I want to know who you are. I want to know why you joined. I want to know how I can keep you around. I want to know what your hobbies are. You have to like obsess over that early community and create a tight bond with them, because that's what the people that join after that culture, like that's where it's created. So important early on. If you just let people join and then as a founder, you're not there and establishing that culture with that early community, then a lot of it gets lost. And then eventually, even if you have 10,000 people in the Discord, they're like, wait, why are we here again? Are we just here because we want to just make a quick flip? And then after the mint's over, founders go like, wait, okay, so what do I have left? Like, yeah, you have some capital now to build, but that tight community is so important. And so that's the advice that I would give, is just obsess over that first 10 people, then 100 people, and really make sure that they're aligned with your vision, and always be there to kind of establish that community from there.
Super powerful. I love that take and I love that advice. That was really amazing. I think that when it comes to building something, like getting those early users in and understanding them is absolutely so key. So it's like that's yeah, 100%. It builds the foundation for everything else. So like as you then went forward, you had the success with Phunks. And it's funny how Phunks has a V1 and V2, and then so does the actual CryptoPunks too, which is interesting.
Which I didn't know. I didn't know that.
Like,
and then I think after Phunks, the V1 punks started garnering a community, and I'm like, wait, those are V1 punks? Like, so the lore behind these collections
right.
through the provenance is so cool, and like everything's on the chain, right? So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So then moving forward from there, you had that community, and then you were like, all right, like obviously there's huge proof of concept with being able to be a creator, bring something to life, and raise interest, raise funds, put NFTs out there, find collectors. And then how did you go from there to the vision for Azuki? Like the artist you got for Azuki, legend, like absolute legend, Steam Boy.
Yeah.
Guy, I'm like, when I saw the art for Azuki, I was like, this is a wrap. This is absolutely fucking epic. And
absolutely
I aped a
phenomenal.
bunch of beans. Yeah, dude, absolutely phenomenal. So like, tell me a little bit about that. Like, what was that process like going from Phunks minting out then, and then like, okay, like how did Azuki, how was it born?
Yeah. So when I looked around the PFP space in 2021 and then 2022, I saw quite a few strong blue chip projects that were around. There was Apes, obviously, Punks, Cool Cat had minted, Doodles as well. And when I looked at the art style, it's mostly Western cartoon, and I didn't really see many projects have a more of a anime or Asian aesthetic. And so, being Asian American myself, I've always had a personal mission to really bridge the East and the West, right? Because I was born in China, lived there until I was 6 years old, and I moved to the U.S. I had a short stint in Germany, and then I moved to the U.S. on my 7th birthday, actually. And so, growing up and experiencing both cultures, it was always my vision to, when I get older in my career, what can I do to really bridge the East and the West? And so, when I looked around the PFP communities, I thought there was a very big opportunity to create something that was authentic to myself, something that I would be proud of to show to the world, and that would actually curate a really cool community that might resonate with that same vision. And so, after, so this was around August is when I really had this idea, and I got the co-founders together, and I have 3 other co-founders. They're all technical, so they complement my skill set really well. Because what I like to do is I like to think more about the community and branding and marketing, and then they can do back end, front end coding, design. And so with that, we had only one missing piece, which is a legendary artist. And so I remember we put together a pitch deck, which I've actually tweeted out before. I can send you the thread, and it laid out the vision for what we thought NFT communities can do for brands and for entertainment long term, and how decentralized communities can really work together alongside the brand to create something really meaningful. And I saw that with Phunks, I saw that with these other blue chip projects at the time, and I thought we could take that to the next level. And so I interviewed I think over 20 different artists, and we had like a spreadsheet where we ranked all these artists like S tier, A tier, B tier in our opinion based on the art style that we wanted. And ArtStation had a bunch of really great artist profiles that worked at Riot, Blizzard, whatnot. And Steamboy was I think we had like a handful of artists in the S tier list, and Steamboy was one of them. And so I emailed a bunch, interviewed a bunch, and when I talked to Steamboy, it was immediately like, wow, this guy, like, he understands crypto, because he had actually done a few drops on Foundation before. He has these really cool pixel art animations that he did for charity. So he auctioned it off. All the money went to a good cause. And so he understood NFTs, which is important, because at that point in 2022, and even still today, a lot of artists, they think that NFTs have a bad reputation, right? And when they hear about an artist and their team moving on to work in crypto or Web3, they're like, oh man, we lost another one. Like, there they go, right? And so it was actually, I think, a big leap of faith for Steamboy to be like, hey, let's even just like entertain this conversation, right? And so we met up for dinner, and we started talking through the idea, and he actually came prepared with his own ideas. During that dinner, he was pitching us like, oh, what if we did this? What if we did that? And then I was just like, man, this is just a match made in heaven, right? Like, we need to work together. And so shortly after that, we're like, hey, let's do this thing. He's like, I'm not ready to leave Blizzard quite yet, right? He had a very talented team that worked with him. I think Overwatch 2 was still in the making, and he wanted to kind of see that through. And so we're like, hey, that's fine. Let's set you up on a contract. And we just worked our asses off for, I think, like from August all the way until January, is everything from the art to the community building, through thinking about the core values of Azuki and the manifesto, what we stood for. And finally, when we minted shortly after, Steamboy was like, hey, you know what? I want to join you guys full time. Let's do this thing. So that's kind of the story about how Azuki got started.
Fucking legendary, dude. That for me was the golden age of NFTs, like part of like the peak of it. I
Yeah.
remember watching my beans reveal and like beans meaning the Azuki beans, the initial Azukis. And I had like pulled some like gold items, like I had some epic background ones, like I think I had like 6 or 7 of them. And I remember that was
Dope.
one of my big flips in the beginning of my NFT
Yeah.
career. And I remember watching them run up and like I was like, holy shit. And then a friend of mine had like a all gold. His name's Poopaloop. Shout out to him. He literally flipped it for like hundreds of ETH down the line. Like he had a spirit with like, I don't know, a bunch of friends had epic pulls, life-changing type of gains, in my opinion. I mean, like
Mhm.
crushing. That was such an epic time for NFTs. And like, how do you feel that you created that essentially? You put that together and pushed so much forward. Like, what did that make you feel like when you saw it all, coming together? Like Steamboy came in, like, fuck yeah, like you did the mint, you minted out. Like, what was that feeling like now for that next big project of yours?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible feeling. I remember even just minting out, right? Like it was another proof point. Like I always knew that we were going to mint out, but just minting out at who did a Dutch auction, right, at 1 ETH, and it minted out. It didn't even hit like the next tier. It minted out at 1 ETH. And I remember feeling like, wow, this is such a strong signal that this space really is really vibing with what we're doing. But this is just day one of the journey. Right now, we have this community, we have this capital to create something really amazing, and so let's get to work. And that's something that for me, like I'm always thinking about how we can create the next experience for our community. How can we create something that's more impactful to even just outside of Web3 now, right? I think all, Azuki included and all these other projects that launch around the same time. It's not just about building within Web3 anymore. It's about onboarding Web2, building something that you don't have to be a crypto user to enjoy. Um, and I remember being excited for like an hour, and then it's all right. Like, what's next? And then the next challenge it comes up just like that. And I remember we did Bobu, and then Bobu was a challenge because it was something new that no one has really experimented with before. After Bobu, it was the Beans airdrop and the check your wallet moment. How can we create something that people haven't experienced before with that? And then after that, it was a New York event, right? And then it's like, oh, then like the FUD happened, right, where people doxed me, and wait, he did all these other projects.
Right.
Like, this guy's not cool. And so part of being a founder, I think, is you can't ever get too high, but you can never get too low either. And a lot of times, I've learned to really compartmentalize, the emotions, away from uh, what needs to be done in that moment for the betterment of the community and for the company. Because I can sit here and sulk, and I can be like, man, this sucks. I need some time to, whatever. And of course, I do take my time when I need it. But really, you just have to keep going. Is a thing. You have to be really resilient and really adaptable and versatile. And I think that's what the Azuki community really values as well, because they've shown a lot of those qualities as well. Yeah, so your question was around like how did it all feel when it came together? Like it felt great, and then it felt like, oh, what do you do next? And it felt great again, and then it felt like, oh shit, it's over, and then oh wait, this is actually dope again. So yeah, it's a mixture of all different types of emotions, but I think what really drives the team and myself now is we've always wanted to build this open anime universe. And it was a vague sort of vision early on, but as we've dived more into the anime industry, have turned Azuki into the strongest Web3 anime brand and IP, we've learned a lot about how the anime industry can actually be revolutionized and taken to the next level, both for consumers who watch anime and for the creators that actually produce anime. And so our vision for what we call Anime 2.0 is a more democratized anime industry for everyone. And that's what keeps us going now. That's why we want Azuki to be the first brand and community to really showcase what Anime 2.0 looks like. And I really think like with NFTs and with Web3, that anime as a category can be a much, much bigger category than it is now for everyone, not just Web3. So that keeps us very excited.
Dude, I have so many questions about Anime 2.0, like what you guys are heading towards, but I do want to rewind back. Like, what was it like dealing with what I would say is potentially the most FUD that any creator in the space faced? Like, everybody was really just trying to like gang up on your name, it felt like. And, you know, I'll leave my take out of it for now because I want to hear what you have to say on like, what was that like? Like, how did you get through that? What was your mindset like? Did you hit any low points? Like, mad respects, by the way, for, you know, getting to where you are today with all of that and handling that. Like, what was that like?
It was one of the most challenging parts of my life, that period after the FUD, because you know, you can imagine when we first came up on the scene, right? Azuki started running up really high. People were really excited about what we're doing. And it was really validating to see that, like, wow, our hard work is really being recognized. And, you know, Azuki from day one was a real company, right? We incorporated Delaware C Corp, right? We're full-time employees. And my previous projects, they were just, you know, side projects where I was like, hey, you know, let's see what I can do here. Super cheap mints, you know, and projects were launching left and right back then. Projects like, you know, My Fucking Pickles, for example, right? Like there's no expectations, you know, you mint it and then you're like, oh, what ticket did I get? Okay, cool. I can flip it or whatever. And it's kind of over. But I think because Azuki really came up on the scene, it made a lot of communities like, whoa, like they're coming for the throne now. And, you know, I don't know how to feel about this. But everything they're doing is so high quality that you can't really knock them for anything, right? So I think people were waiting for that moment to really, you know, knock us down. You know that quote, it's like everyone wants to support you on the way up, but once you are successful, you know, people want to tear you down. And I feel like I did experience that. But the thing is, what you can do in that moment, and what I kept telling myself is you can't control what everyone else thinks, right? Like I know internally what the truth is and what my intentions are. And I have super high conviction in what I'm building with Azuki. And so I'm not going to let any of this FUD tear me down. It's not going to make me leave the space. It's not going to make me stop building what I, you know, truly believe in. And the Azuki community at the time, you know, some people left, right, for sure, but that left a very strong core community of supporters that had my back, that knew the type of experiences that I was creating for them, and they wanted more. They wanted to see us really, you know, accomplish our mission for years to come. And so it was very difficult because I saw how it affected the team. I saw how it affected my co-founders. And yeah, there were times where I'm just like, you know, like it was a very traumatic experience, right? Because like I was also concerned about my safety, right? Because people were doxing myself, my family. I have a little brother, he's only a teenager, right? They were posting pictures of where he worked. And so I'm like, whoa, this is, you know, this is just not okay. Like this is like, how does launching a few projects for fun lead to this, right? This is just way overblown. But through that, I also learned that, look, even if you start a project of any sorts, right, small or big, I think if you wanted to move on and work on something else, like the handoff should be very cleanly done, which I did not do a good job of. And so I recognized that. I actually returned all the funds that I made for those previous projects to those respective communities. And so I didn't make a single dollar at the end of the day from the previous projects, because I wanted to show that, like, look, the handoff could have been better. I recognize that. And my focus now is solely on Azuki. I'm here to stay. And I think through that experience, like, it just gave me so much mental fortitude and even thicker skin that I feel really indestructible now. Like people have been FUDing me since then, right? For years now. It's been what, 2 years, right? I still get comments and stuff, but it just, it's kind of like Neo in the Matrix, right? Like stopping the bullets. Like it doesn't really affect me these days. And I'm just really happy and grateful for my team, my family, friends that supported me, the community, and we survived it, right? So we're even stronger as a result. And nowadays, a lot of founders like reach out because they also experience FUD from their own community or from other people, and I think it's really bad for your mental health, I think, because this space is already very toxic, right? So if you're not really seeking the help you need, or you don't have that close circle of friends who can, touch some grass with you and, just like live a normal life outside of crypto, then you can just spiral down this like kind of deep abyss of just like negativity. And so whenever founders reach out, I try to give them my time and, give them some advice. Yeah, I look back at that moment and I'm honestly grateful that it happened, because it just taught me so much. And I think without those other projects, like Azuki wouldn't be what it is today, right? So it's not like I want to go back and, oh man, if only I didn't do those projects. Like, no, like Azuki wouldn't have existed if I didn't learn how to do everything that I know now from those projects. And so, yeah, that's, here we
Yeah.
are today, and we're still strong. And so that's all I can ask for.
Damn. I mean, I think you handled it well. Like, you didn't come back and you didn't fight with the way, like, I've dealt with FUD in my experience, not at that level, but like pretty solid. And my way of handling it at first was always to be like, all right, I understand where you're coming from, and like try to reason with people. But then you just get trampled and you end up not really being able to make the impact that you want. So then it's like, I see a lot of founders really take the strategy of fighting back and being like, no, like, fuck you. Like, and I see that seems to work better in the space. In reality, when the normal human nature is just to be like, yo, like, let's discuss this. But like, some people can't be like dealt with in a sense. You just really have to keep,
Yeah.
powering forward, like you said. So like, were you blackmailed at any part of the process, like in order to come out and like give those funds back? Because I know like Paulie, like I think he was involved, right? And like he was like, yeah, we're gonna get this guy's money, like all this stuff. Like, and obviously now he's banned from Twitter. So like I don't even know what's going on with him, but like I never really got involved with him. But was there a process there where people were blackmailing you in order to make you come out and say all this stuff? Or was it from you? You were like, all right, like, let's come clean.
Yeah. So people were digging into like, who is this guy, right? Trying to dox me and things like that. And I just had this feeling that like, you know what, one day I feel like this will come out in one way or shape or form. And so my priority at this point is solely on Azuki. And so I wrote that long blog post to really just show people that like, look, this is everything that I did. And I really did not feel like I did anything wrong. Because if you look at project by project, I did everything that I said I was going to do, right? With Phunks,
Yeah.
I did and more, right? I feel like I did everything and more. And it got to a point where Larva Labs sent a DMCA, right? And I figured, look, if I want this movement to continue, but I go to court and I talked to lawyers and they said, I don't think you have a good shot of winning this. So if I did that and then I lost, I had to take down the art, the movement is over. That's not a good outcome for the community. So instead, I handed over the community to a group of Discord mods. And a few of them, you might know, like one of them is actually Franklin. Franklin is board, was one of the
No
mods at
way.
the time. And so I wrote a letter right when I departed, and I handed off the community there so it can be actually a decentralized community. But people tend to gloss over that fact, right? They think that I just disappeared one day, right? Which didn't happen. And then with Tendies, it was a raffle style project where if you mint a NFT that had a certain serial number, then you would win prizes along the way. And we gave out all those prizes until it stopped minting. So then that's it. It's a raffle project, right? And then with Zunks, there was a team that was actually still running it, even when I came out with that blog post. And so we did everything that we said we're going to do. And so I think, yeah, it's just, but people don't really dig into the details. And so they don't see exactly what happened. And I think it's easy to just point to someone and be like, hey, that's not a good actor. That's a villain, right? And then people love drama in this space, right? So they all pile on. So yeah, that's kind of how it all happened.
Yeah, man. And like when I say like come clean, by the way, like I personally as a creator don't think that you did anything wrong either. Like if you did what you said you were going to do, how can you do more than that? And you actually did do more than that. You refunded everybody as well. Like, so I think that what it did, it was a massive test of you as an individual, as a creator, as a founder, and you passed that test. I mean, like you did all the things you said you were going to do. And on top of that, then you were able to refund everybody, still keep moving forward. It didn't take you down. You didn't leave the space. And now too, you look at a lot of these companies that they're building all sorts of stuff. And I have tons of respect for like, you know, Doodles and Yuga Labs and stuff. And
For sure.
these endeavors, they're not easy. And they test you to your core, especially to your managing teams. Like,
Sure.
so I think you really did an amazing job at that and you handled it. And now you're at where you are today. And then though it wasn't the end of the story there too. Like, so you ended up then, you know, getting through that and then moving forward and then the elementals mint. So like when you minted elementals and everybody was so hyped on it, another Dutch auction, right? And
it was, yes, I believe so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
At 2 ETH. Yep.
yeah. And then they minted out and everybody was like fucking lit. And, you know, that's amazing cash infusion. Keep the mission going. And you still to this day are building and have a massive vision and are doing shit that 99.9% of founders out there, number one, I would say don't have the balls to do. Number two, you're actually seeing it through and making this space grow, focusing on onboarding, focusing on building something that hasn't been done before. I mean, not to mention too, you also did ERC 721A, which like fucking changed the space massively. People do overlook this stuff. And I think like what you've done is, you know, you beat that game of FUD. But like when Elementals Mint happened, what was that like going through that for you? Because it must have been an amazing thing to see, you know, okay, we have another proof of concept here. But then all of the FUD after that, what was it like dealing with all of that?
Yeah. You know, I think, well, I want to give a lot of credit to the team and what they've done throughout all this, right? I think I am very lucky to have found a passionate and strong team that is very that that show a lot of compassion and are very technical and are great builders as well. I think it's very rare to find you know, technical people that also have good taste, and so I credit, you know, all the success of Azuki like to them and what they and the community are able to do together. And I think, you know, getting through FUD is it doesn't get easier, I would say. I think we just learn how to take input and feedback as quickly as possible and really determine what the next steps are in order to just keep going. Because what you can do is just get so bogged down in the FUD. And this is like after elementals, right? Everyone had different opinions on what we should do after. Some people were saying like, you should change all the humans to animals. Some people were saying, oh, you just need to, you know, airdrop like something else to people. And then other people were saying, you need to make another physical merch and then give it for free. And then, you know, people care about different things in the community, right? Some people came in for the art, some people came in for the tech, some people came in for the community. And so everyone wants different things. It's the same thing in the gaming industry, right? Like it's actually not like FUD is not something that only happens in crypto. It happens in every industry. Gamers, they give very critical feedback, and it's very toxic sometimes if they don't like a feature that comes out or a new drop from their favorite game, and you know the price is too high or whatever. And I think it's because they really care about the game or about the project or whatever it is that they're fudding about. I've always said that the worst FUD is no FUD, because no FUD means no one gives a damn. That's the worst one, right? If you see some projects like they have a bad launch, and you know there's like 2 people in the comments going like, "Yo, what the hell was that?" It's barely no FUD, right? That's the worst, because it means like no one cares anymore. So if a lot of people are FUDing, it just means that a lot of people actually still do care. And so how do we turn that energy into something positive, which is what we did after Elementals, right? We took the feedback, we went on a garden tour, we called it, where we hit international cities, supported these locally run events. And I talked to, you know, all the holders. I was there in person. We launched like a vinyl figurine for Gus, the Blue Bean, right? Free for holders. We did the Patrick Mahomes collab, free for holders. We did the Satoshi Nakamoto collab for Spirit holders, all for free. And we did that to show that, look, we're still here. We still care. We have a high bar for quality still. And we have a bigger vision for really tackling the anime industry that we're working on behind the scenes. And then earlier this year, we announced the plans for Anime Chain alongside the foundation, Anime Coin, and so things are starting to tie together now, right? And so that energy from Elementals, we really tried to just take that feedback and then turn it into something positive and start to build up that momentum again. And Elementals now have been a great way for new holders to join the garden, right? We see new people joining in every week. And the art, I think, on the collection is absolutely fantastic. I think Steamboy and the art team, they actually spent an order of magnitude more time and resources on the Elementals collection than we did on the OG collection, because there's 4 domains, right? 4 elements. Each one has a unique style and fashion kind of aesthetic, and they all have their own unique traits. The layering, right? For certain hairs, there's 30 layers. And every time you move around something, that's an artist moving around 30 layers. Hands down, there's no other PFP collection in the space that comes close to the level of detail that Elementals has. And I think it will age really nicely over time once people look back and go like, wow, this is the best anime PFP collection ever. And I think if someone were to come in and top that, I hope that happens one day, because it means they were inspired enough to really elevate that even further and put in as much time or more time to really do that compared to us. So now we have 10,000 OGs, 20,000 Elementals, and everyone feels like they're part of this anime universe because they look and feel like Azukis, which we felt was really important. And as we build more IP, right, we have the anime anthology that's currently in production. Episode 1 just came out a few months ago. And then we're working on even longer forms of anime content as well. And so once you see this IP come to life, and then more people are able to have a character that belongs in this universe, I think will really stand out as like the anime community that started with NFTs.
Dude, yeah, like insane. The story, the lore, how everything's come together. The art, man. Like, I never remember seeing the Azuki's art. I was blown away, but then I learned more about how it was put together, like how the different like lighting would affect that. Like, if there's red in the piece, there was a red glow, like that affected the other ways. And like people see the finished product, but they don't understand the layering that goes into these, generative projects where like it's so complex to have 10,000, have 20,000 and not have any issues, not even one, is meticulous details that you have to go through. And that's, it takes a lot of energy. And when you did Elementals, was there any like sort of inkling of like, okay, like these look a little similar to Azuki's, how are people going to feel about that? Or was more of the energy towards like all of the details that are going into this, people are going to love it, and like you kind of didn't foresee that there might be some backlash and FUD around the art?
Yeah. So, your point about seeing the behind the scenes and how all the complexities come together, we recognize that. And so we started producing the series called Behind the Beans, where it's a short 5 to 10 minute episode. I think we're on episode 5 or 6 now, where each episode kind of goes through a different topic, like how we created episode 1 of the anime, right? And it interviews the production team based in Japan. It talks about why we decided to work with them. We have an episode on the Elementals collection as well, right? So it goes into detail, like the layering, the traits, the 4 domains. And so I would encourage, people listening to, check that out. It's on our YouTube. And we have more and more. So just yesterday, we just released an episode on the Azuki collector system and how we have different emblems and collector scores. And that's the only system really out of all the major PFP collections that gives value to the mid rares and grails, right? And so we want to showcase more of how we think about problems and how we create our products. So that's a series for that. And to answer your question about with elementals, how did we did we ever think that they look too similar to humans? So I think today we take a more transparent and open approach in how we build things, right? So we have the garden gatherings in Discord now, where people can come up, ask questions. We share more updates about what we're working on. I'm, in DMs with holders all the time. The community team is as well. And we give them a heads up on kind of, hey, here's how we're thinking about things. Here's what we're working on. Back then, before Elementals, what Azuki was known for is being very secretive and low key about what our plans are, and then having huge moments that just blow everyone away, right? And so we made sure that there were no leaks on the art because we really wanted to surprise people, right? And so, but the downside of that is we don't get any external feedback around will people actually think this is dope or not, right? And so we were so focused on making the art as good as it can be and the details and whatnot that we really just did not. I think maybe it crossed our mind for a little bit, like, wait, you know what? It looks very similar to the OGs, but the way I thought about it was, if you're a watch collector and you have a Rolex and a Tudor watch. If you're not familiar with watches, just Google Rolex and Tudor. Tudor is actually a sister company, if you will, that's still owned by Rolex. And the quality is very high, but it's not as high as Rolex. But to the naked, untrained eye, they look like the same watch. Like the Tudor looks like the Submariner. But if you understood watches, you can very quickly tell, oh, that one's the Rolex, that's a Tudor. And so my thinking was that, collectors would very easily be able to tell, like, oh, this is an elemental, this is an OG. And I think the market conditions at the time, right, where we had to, because remember, this is when NFTs and the whole market was already going downhill, and people were saying, like, look, this Azuki Vegas event, this next drop, it's got to hit. Otherwise, it's over. People were leveraged up on Blend. And, people, look, we care about floor price the most in this space, right? So you can have the best art in the world, but if floor price goes down, that's an L, right? And so
Yeah,
I think
wild.
in that market, yeah, we just had to nail every single aspect of that drop. And, everything from the live event to the live airdrop to, we got 3,000 people in Vegas just for an Azuki event in a bear market, right? And planned out a whole week of community activities. And we worked on the most art intensive and tech intensive collection for the 4 or 5 months leading up to it. So everything had to hit, right? But because one aspect was off, like, wait, these kind of look like the OGs, and the floor price went down, then people are like, it's because of that. This sucks, and that's what started the whole sort of cycle. And so, what we learned from that is, like, look, building in public is important, and we want to do more of that. We want people to know kind of what they're getting themselves into, and setting expectations, I think, is really important. Understanding market dynamics and where we're at in the cycle, doing smaller releases so that it's not all dependent on this one thing that happens every 1 to 2 years, right? It has to hit, otherwise, it's going to be bad for another X amount of months. And that's what we're doing now, right? Smaller releases, but still we have big things planned, obviously, and just adapting as we go.
Yeah, like it's a different time now as well. And I think that the way you got through it was really, you guys did everything right. And the amount of attention and detail that you've put in on all of these is insane. So it's like, when you become that prolific creator, of course there's going to be people on one side of the fence that are going to be like, okay, like fuck that guy. And then there's people on the other side of the fence that are like, yo, like this is our guy. And like the live events you've done as well, like giving you credit for that. Like, are you the main like idea or the main like brain behind that? Because I know you have a big team. The live events that you've executed, like when you announce Beans and you're like, yo, check your wallets, that is fucking electric. Like I saw videos, I wasn't there, but like I remember that moment. Azuki holders were just on top of the fucking world. They were like, we were just airdropped 2 each, right? If it wasn't even more, maybe I think it was
2
2
each. Yep.
Yeah, fucking gnarly. People didn't expect it. Again, with the secrecy, huge win. And at that moment, like what did that feel like for you? Because was that the first major live event you guys did?
Yeah, that was the first event that we did, and that was in March of 2022, and we had just minted in January, right? So we had no plans to actually do something in March. This is for NFT LA. And then when the date started approaching and we were thinking, look, this is in our backyard, right? We have to show out for LA. We can't just not do anything, right? So we put together that event on like a last minute notice. And, sometimes just the most beautiful things happen on a whim, right? It's just serendipitous, and you really can't replicate the exact experience again, right? You can change some things up and try to do things differently, for sure. But I think one of the best moments in Azuki history is definitely that check your wallet moment in LA, and a lot of things just came together, like and huge props again to the team, right? Like I help with the creative direction around how I want things to look, how I want things to feel. But in terms of executing it, it's our operations manager Angela. Some people have met her at different events. She's always making sure everything goes smoothly. She's like the absolute goat, right? And she's like 10 people in one, making sure everything runs smoothly. And like every piece needs to come together for a moment like that to happen. And I've told the story in other interviews before, but Dem, who's our head of community, had to work with Toki Monster, who was a DJ performing at the time of the event, because she had to put on the video at the right time, right? If it was too early and people saw check your wallet, but the airdrop didn't happen, then they'd be like, what the hell is that, right? Or if it was too late, people would notice, because these people are hawks, right? Like they'll see an airdrop, it'll be all over Twitter and Discord, and then like the moment will be ruined, right? So it takes so many people and so many pieces to make a moment like that happen. So we look back and we're just like, damn, we really did that, So that's a very proud moment for me, for sure.
You did fucking do that, man. You guys as a team came together and made that happen. And you've pushed the space forward in many ways. Like, I think that you should absolutely be so proud of yourself and your team. And I know that you are. Like, you guys have done some amazing shit.
Thank you.
And you're just getting started, literally.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
that vision is powerful. Like, it really is still getting started. You're building now a whole new mission that is, I would say, even way bigger than anything you've accomplished already in the past. So like
100%.
what is it like now? And I know, are you good on time, by the way, like for a little
Yeah.
longer? Or, okay.
Yeah. I can go a little longer. Yeah.
Perfect. So like, what is it like having, an amazing budget to build the vision that you have? And what is it like managing the team? What is the office life like on a typical day to day? Like, what is all of that experience like for you and for the team and pushing everything forward like that?
Yeah, we're on our third office now. The first one was a small apartment in downtown LA, and we outgrew that one very quickly. So after the mint, we're like, guys, I think we need a real office now. We're like, yeah, you're right. And so we moved
Nice.
into a nice spot in the fashion district, or in the arts district in LA. And then we were there for about a year and a half, and outgrew that one. And so we moved into the one we're currently in West LA. And it's a like, I haven't worked at any company like this before, right? Because even at 0x, um, we were more focused on DeFi, right? More on the technical infrastructure side, working with other devs, and the vibe was very different. Not in like a bad way. It was just very different. It was more technical, less creative. And so here, at Azuki, we're all about having great art, great taste, great aesthetics, and so creative drives a lot of what we do. I mean, we're making an anime IP, right, as part of our business, but now we're growing the team to be a lot more than that. And so I call kind of the strategy of what we're building, the full stack anime strategy, where we have the IP, right, being Azuki. And this is a Web3 native IP, where we have a community of builders and creatives around it that's building alongside the team. And we're able to experiment with this IP in ways that other traditional IPs can't, because they're all owned by either one central party, or in the anime industry, it's owned by a production committee where there's multiple owners that have rights for different things. So even using the IP for a video game has to be a specific team, but then you want to use it to create some merch, that's another team, right? So it's a very slow, drawn out process. For us, since we own the IP for everything, we can do things very quickly, right? So that's one part of the full stack anime strategy. And then the next part is the infrastructure that an anime ecosystem can be built on, and that is Anime Chain. And I think having a vertical approach to building is really powerful, and it's a strategic advantage, because we can focus on one category being anime, and really dominate that vertical, versus other ecosystem are kind of fighting for the same dApps to come build on their chain. And it's just going to be a fight for hey, who offer the most for these teams to come. I think for us, the last piece of the full stack anime strategy is a major marquee app on Anime Chain, and that's what we're really excited to announce shortly. And we believe that consumer crypto, for us, and how we will play a big hand in it, is in first building a killer app that will onboard anime fans, whether they like Web3 or not. They're not even going to know it's crypto powering this app, and it's our responsibility to really build this app, and really accomplish that first before going out and building a full-fledged ecosystem. Once you have the users, we can more easily get the developers and teams to build on their behalf, or not on their behalf, but to build for them. And so the company now is focused on building the Azuki IP. We have been and always will, but now we're also building the other part of what I call the full stack anime strategy. So that's what the company looks like today. It's a group of creatives, artists, but also very technical, and very talented engineers and product folks to balance that out.
How many people at the company nowadays, like rough size?
35.
Wow. You guys are pretty lean for the amount of things that you're working on. That's massive. I would have guessed like 10
Yeah.
times that much, maybe.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So it's interesting, because when I say that we're 35 people, to some people, they're like, wow, that's really small. To other people, they're like, wow, that's that's a huge team, you know. And so I think it really depends on if you've had kind of experience building companies before or not. But you know, most people do think that like, wow, based on everything that you guys do, I would expect it, you know, you guys to have a bigger team. But yeah, we try to really give people the freedom to use their talent to the full extent. And you know, I think for the past 2 years, if you look at what we've done, we've really built Azuki to be more of a brand, right? Like we've done a lot of brand partnerships, collabs, different drops of different products, but we haven't really built a platform, right, or like a technology business. We've had a few tech features, if you will, smaller products, if you will, that other developers can plug into and use, like ERC 721A, for example, PBT, the physical back token standard, something that we created as well. But yeah, now like we want to build something that's much more than just a brand, because the vision really is to create a better anime experience for all, and that includes you know, creating a lot of tech.
What is it like to be working on your dream with, you know, you have this insane vision and bringing that to life, having team members that are all in, having a company that's done so much, that has the funds that you guys have to push this vision forward? What does that feel like?
It feels like it's you know, what's funny is like I was looking through my notes app on my flight back from Vancouver. We just had a community event up there, and I had no
Yes.
Wi-Fi on the flight. And you know, we scroll through the photo album. You know, I was looking back at, you know, notes, and I had a note from 2015, so almost a decade ago, and it was like my goals around what I want to do as a leader for the next decade. And I had forgotten that I even wrote this note until then. And I wrote something like, I want to create a company which I'm passionate about the vision, and that I can lead a team of really talented people to create something that can impact an entire industry. And so that's what I wrote. And I thought about what we're doing now with Azuki and the anime industry, creating our own IP and creating this new form of brand and community that's born from Web3. And I'm like, I am taking a good step in that direction, based on what I've wanted, you know, even since a decade ago. And so it really is a dream come true. And it's really, and it makes me feel like I'm very lucky to be in this position, to have this team, and also have the capital to make a really great effort into, like, I can't guarantee success, right? But we have the right resources and the right people to really take a good shot at this. And I feel like it's our responsibility to do it, because if it's not us to really carry out this vision, because I truly believe this vision will happen, right? Whether it's us or someone else. But if it's not us, I feel like we're best equipped to do it, is what I'm trying to say. So it's our responsibility now, right, to do it. And so that gets me up in the morning, keeps everyone on the team excited. And so yeah, Anime 2.0, that's what we're excited about.
Dude, fucking awesome. Like, inspiring as fuck. Seriously. Like, for anyone out there listening who is on their mission, building, like, I think that it's super inspiring because, you know, getting to that point is like massive. Being able to have the funds, pushing things forward. But then when you're living it, it's like also when we get to a certain point in life, it's like that point only lasts for that moment. Then you realize too, it's like, okay, like, let's keep going. And what keeps fueling you beyond that is having that purpose. And I feel that
Exactly.
you're absolutely on your purpose. So
Exactly. Yeah.
it's like, and if you were to not do it, it's like, imagine like somebody else doing it. It just doesn't make sense, you know? It's like you have to do it.
Yeah, and you know, I think that we just said about what keeps you going is your sense of purpose is completely spot on, because I think when we're first starting out and trying to achieve our goal, we tend to think, or at least I did, that if I only, you know, can raise a bit of money to start my company, I know I would have made it. And then that happens, and you realize that, like, okay, now what? raising money for a company, that's only the first step. Now you actually have to go out and build it. And then you think, oh, if only I can just ship the first product and get the first group of people using it, like that's it right there. And that happens, and you're like, okay, now what? So what drives you has to be that inner sense of purpose, because these milestones that you set for yourself, which it is powerful and is good, that can't be your ultimate goal. Like that purpose has to continue driving you every step of the way. Otherwise, I think very quickly you can burn out. You might ask yourself, like, wait, what am I doing here? Is it even worth it? Or maybe your milestone could be make $1 million, and that happened, and it's like, now what? So yeah, I completely agree with what you just said.
Yep. Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying too. Like 1,000%. The purpose is that oil, that fire inside that's like constantly being kindled and pushing you. So 1,000,000% agree. Like as far as burnout goes, like beyond dealing with FUD, beyond dealing with, everything and building something and having a mission and constantly, fighting against any resistance that comes and to continuously go and move forward. What do you do on a like day-to-day basis to unwind? Like what is like a day in the life for Z?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard for me to keep my mind off of work, because it is so exciting for me, and there are a lot of things going on. And so, for better or for worse, I'm always sort of thinking about it. What I like to do to unwind, I have ADHD, and so I have like mobile games that I just try to like play that keeps my mind off things. When I just want to keep my mind off work for a little bit. I've been really getting into cigars for the past a year and a half or so, and the cigar community. I mean, it tends to be older dudes, right, that like cigars. And what I've found is in joining a cigar club and just getting to know these cigar folks a bit more, is like it's great to just enjoy a cigar for an hour and just talk with someone. And it's almost like NFTs, right? You go to an event, and it's like the thing that brought everyone there is their love for crypto or NFTs. So you already have one thing in common, and then you can start talking about whatever else and try to form a bond that way. And so with cigars, it's, I tend to meet people who are a lot older, so they have a lot more wisdom. They have great stories, and it just keeps my mind off work for a good hour or so. And it's a good way for me to, rekindle relationships with friends as well. They come over, have a cigar, and we just talk and catch up. And for guys, I feel like it's kind of rare to just have that moment where we're not like drinking and going hard or whatever. It's very calm, and we can just, talk about deep conversations. And so yeah, I've been enjoying that.
That's sick. Like I haven't gotten into cigars myself, but I see the value that it can bring. Like I think even too, like just getting to sit down and like have a conversation. Like I've really been enjoying doing this pod, like, getting to speak to
Yep.
high level people like yourself, ask these interesting questions about the journey, like without being like wondering what's going on my phone. Like I think any way to like take a break from this like constant, like being inside of this digital world, this metaverse, it's essentially. And then when you come back to it, you have like a fresher perspective. It's so key, like being able to take those moments to pause. So that's interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
yeah, man. So like ultimately, a day in the life of ZAGABOND, like you're building this company, you're working on this passion, and you have this insane drive and purpose. And, like you like to unwind and, play some video games. You're basically, just going through every single day and pushing it and going all in. I think there's tons and tons of people who will hear this and be like, like my dream is not out of my grasp. Like I can do this.
No.
Well, so like, what do you say to people out there? We can kind of wrap up here on this point, like who are on their come up and they're working towards their dream. Like, what would you say to these folks to give them a bit of advice on that journey?
First, I think it's important to just acknowledge and recognize where we're at in the grand scheme of things, right? Like throughout history, there has not been a better time for a driven person to have as many resources and tools and technology that we have now to start a business. And there's more and more tools coming out every day for even non-technical founders to build something meaningful. And so use those tools, use the social networks that exist, and really amplify your voice, be authentic, and let people hear what you have to say and show people what you're building. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And that's something I'm trying to get better at too, where I like to wait until something is perfect before releasing it. But it doesn't have to be perfect. You want to show people how you think. I think it's more important than the ultimate polished product or blog post at the end of the day. So keep doing that, and think about your purpose, and make sure that what you're building is aligned with that purpose, and don't let any FUD or any haters detract you from that. Because look, if people continue to hate on you, that means you're doing something right? It'd be weird if you were on your way to being successful and you had no haters. That's kind of weird, I think. So yeah, that's my message, is just keep going, and hopefully that you can find more success along the way, and take time to unwind in this very chaotic crypto space that we're in, but never lose focus of your vision.
Super sound take. Man, I really appreciate you coming through. You're absolutely in it 5 the art, in it 5 the fucking entire industry here, pushing this industry forward. And you've made such a massive impact. Godspeed on the journey and the mission, and for your team. Like, massive love, massive respect to you and your team and everything you guys have done and what you'll continue to do. I'm stoked to watch it unfold and to see you guys make these big leaps and launch the anime chain, launch the coin, get the next episodes out, watch it unfold. And, may you continue to go through, and whatever challenges you guys face, you're going to grow through it. And I'm just stoked that you were able to come through today and we were able to have this conversation. It was very inspiring, and I appreciate the time, man, massively. So thanks again for coming.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. And it's good to, I guess, reconnect, because I guess we first connected in 2021 through that DM. But yeah, this is really fun, and glad to have joined in it 5 the art. So appreciate you.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, well, we'll wrap it up on that note. Much love to everyone listening. Z, thanks for coming through, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you.